Hey guys, it's Brian back at you with another video where my goal is to mentor you to a rewarding career and to help you create a life you're proud of. And in that endeavor, I'm answering a question that I got through LinkedIn. And if you guys have not connected with me on LinkedIn, please do so. My name is Brian Yam. So definitely search me that way. You'll recognize my picture through my profile photo. Definitely connect with me there. I'd love to hear from you. So today's question is about career progression in quality assurance and regulatory affairs. And if you guys don't know, that's pretty much the foundation of my career, so it's definitely fitting and it makes sense why this person reached out to me. Now, before I answer this question, please, if you have not, definitely check out my free ebook, The Unfair Advantage. And if you like today's tips and my advice, I do have live one-on-one courses, and I think for many of you, the best one right now, especially if you're looking at entering the career workforce, check out my career prep course where it's a live one-on-one session. It's about 90 minutes long. The first hour is really about the theory and the tips and advice that I give in terms of your search. But also importantly, we will be doing a deep dive into your resume as well as your cover letter and doing a mock interview. I'll be giving you real-time feedback, so you're getting real advice from someone that's active in the industry, that is actively hiring, and seeing what someone like myself will be looking for in a candidate. All right, let's get to the question. Hi Brian, hope you are doing well. Thanks for connecting with me. I am pursuing an MS, Master's in Science, in Biotechnology from University of Houston, Clear Lake, USA. I have seen your videos in YouTube which are informative. Thank you. I need your suggestion and help, sir. Your suggestion will really help me as you are from the same domain in which I am interested in. I am interested in regulatory affairs and quality assurance but have no prior experience or studied earlier. I want to pursue a career that will provide me great growth in terms of money and position, and regulatory affairs is one that I think satisfies my needs. Can you please tell me about opportunities and career growth in regulatory affairs and quality assurance? I also request you to please suggest how and from where I can start learning about regulatory affairs, or do I need to do any certification courses that may be required so after my graduation I can try to get a regulatory affairs job. I'm worried about careers in biotechnology. Research jobs have a very slow career progression, so I need to have a transition. I'm also trying to find other career prospects like process development, QA/QC. Please share your suggestions. It will definitely help me to decide about a good career in biotech or pharma. We'll appreciate it. So Amit, thank you very much for the question. I really appreciate that. This is a really good one, especially for those that have a science degree and aren't sure what to do with it. And I actually have a video about science jobs that you can get, but I think this goes into a lot more detail. So first things first, I have to admit that my career is not in the biotech or pharma industry. It's actually in the dietary supplements, natural health products, nutraceuticals industry, as well as the foods industry, which are very different categories. But because of that, I'm going to give you some perspective with regards to food/dietary supplements rather than pharma or biotech, but I will give some perspective on that I'm familiar with. So the first thing I notice is that you don't have any experience. Now, I'm not sure if you just didn't elaborate on that or if you genuinely don't have experience. And I think for the viewers out there, if you don't have experience, definitely get some before you graduate, either through an internship program or through co-op. I definitely recommend doing that. And if you don't have experience, you're going to be a little bit at a disadvantage, and this is why your cover letter, resume, and interview skills are going to have to be top-notch. In the case of Amit, obviously your education strength, having a master's is definitely going to help you, but at the same time, the competition out there is going to be tough. So keep that in mind. I'm going to assume you have no experience, and I'm going to give you the strategies with that in mind. The question that you have is around certification or education in regards to regulatory affairs. Now, in the food industry or the dietary supplement industry, there are regulatory affairs courses that you can take, but it's not necessary in order to land a job in that sector or in that function. I don't think you absolutely need to have the education, but they are out there. It's just not mandatory. With regards to biotech or pharma, that might be different. And in fact, I do recommend that you do take courses, but also keep in mind that doesn't guarantee you a job in any way, but it does give you the right foundation and education that you need, especially in the pharma world or in the biotech world, where clinical trials or scientific studies, and the regulatory process and approval process is so crucial to the success of the technology or of the business or of the product. So it's absolutely crucial that those applications, those filings are done properly. So having that education in the biotech or pharma world really makes sense. But again, there's no guarantees. I've seen people with that background and still not get hired. Again, it does matter what kind of experience you have, not necessarily education in this case, but in the biotech pharma industry, definitely look into education. Whereas in the dietary supplement or food space, you don't necessarily need an education in regulatory affairs. The next thing I want to talk about is really around career progression. And you talk about the need of having that progression. I'm assuming that you want to be in a leadership role eventually, and you also want to be compensated well, and I totally get that. Now, the thing here though is to keep in mind that you have no experience, so you're not going to be in that type of role right off the bat. You're going to probably be doing an entry-level job, doing the grunt work, and I actually talk a little bit about this in another video regarding regulatory affairs. I'll have a link, but you can definitely check that out. And that's kind of the situation. If you want to get into regulatory affairs, you are going to be the one doing the report writing, the filing, gathering all the evidence and analyzing the data and just writing reports and doing the research. And essentially it is grunt work. It's not necessarily fun, but what's really cool about regulatory affairs is that essentially you're playing the person that knows the rules. You know what the rule book is, you know what you can and cannot do, and you can really give guidance at a higher level to other departments as a result. So that's kind of cool. It's a really nice function. You're also going to be doing reviews, making sure that labels and packaging materials are also compliant with the laws and regulations. So that is a very functional role for regulatory affairs. It's a very important one, but for some people that can be very monotonous because you're just reviewing labels or packaging materials or advertisements. Some people love that, some people might find that boring, but keep in mind that that's kind of your job when you start off in regulatory affairs, and as you grow, you can give more strategic guidance to help steer a company, whether they want to go internationally or go through a different country or to open into a different market. So let's talk about quality assurance for a little bit. This is not regulatory affairs. This is more about looking at the quality systems, setting the systems in place, making sure that things are running smoothly, that the production process makes sense, that people have the right procedures to clean the machines, to operate the machines, to ensure that the facilities are clean, that people are properly trained, that people know how to implement a change, let's say in a formula or in the label, and how that impacts the entire operations of a department or of the organization, and to see what the implications are. It's really broad. It is very big picture. You do understand the impact of a small item and how widespread and what the situation is if you were to implement that change to a broader organization and to the operation. So it's really, really cool. You get that expansive knowledge across the entire quality systems that you don't necessarily get with regards to regulatory affairs. Regulatory affairs is more specific. It's more about the regulations, obviously, and compliance around that, whereas quality systems or quality assurance is much bigger scope. You're looking at the actual processes, the actual production, being on the floor, and all the systems and procedures and training that needs to go in place. In terms of education for quality assurance, you do not have to have a course. There are courses out there. I do recommend that you do take it, but keep in mind that having that, again, doesn't guarantee that you're going to get a job, but it will make your training a little bit easier. Nothing is guaranteed, so definitely keep that in mind. At the end of the day, experience is really what matters, which really brings me to my last point, which is you need experience. It sounds like you started in the attention of getting a job in the lab, and I don't know who you've talked to, maybe you realize, okay, you know, my friends aren't doing so well in that career and they're progressing slowly, they're not making that much money, and now you're freaking out a little bit or a little bit anxious and nervous about it and thinking, okay, maybe you should get into something else. But my advice to you is, hey, if you've already made it 75% of the way there, thinking that you're going to get a lab job, or you've kind of focused your education that way, take it. Find a company that you want to work for and get that lab job and work and understand how things work, how the lab is run, what departments that lab interacts with, the types of problems. You're going to learn so much from that, and you're going to build new networks within that organization And because you're working in that organization, you're also going to be one step ahead in terms of the job opportunities, either in regulatory affairs or quality assurance. And because you've been working with these different departments, you will be working with regulatory affairs, you will be working with quality assurance, you really get a better sense of whether that career path is better for you. Now, that's my advice. I'd recommend that if you're 75% of the way in a lab, career, take it, and then you can always pivot to something else. The other part that I want to talk about is regarding career progression. You talked about, can I make enough money? Can I be in a respectful position? Well, you can, but really what's important to you is the career the right fit for you? You might work in the lab and realize you really enjoy it. I know some people do that, and because they enjoy it, they show so much enthusiasm and passion, they actually climb the corporate ladder through the lab, right? And they become in a very respectful, well-regarded, very niche market. And with that comes a high value demand, right? You can move pretty much to other companies and they're going to pay you very well as a result. So that's one aspect. The other thing is, if it's not congruent with you, think about regulatory affairs or quality assurance. Does that fit your personality type? Does that fit how you want to work? Do you want to work in a lab? Do you want to work in the production floor? Do you want to be in an office? Where do you lean? For me, I know that I did do some work in the lab and realized it wasn't for me, and I really wanted to work in a more corporate environment. So that's kind of where I went, and that's why I started in regulatory affairs. But that was just me. There's just so much that happens after that really determines career progression, culture fit, how projects that you've tackled, your own enthusiasm and passion for it. If you've been given the opportunity, I guess there's a factor of luck. Have you been given the opportunity to lead other people? And that really sets the course to career progression. So, what's really important for you is, if you have no experience, is to get experience. So just get your foot in the door, work there, and then kind of pivot and then climb the ladder that way. So, I'm going to stop there only because I've lightly covered a lot of different areas, but the big take-home message is, don't be too picky as to which career you want to go, because right now you're obviously geared to the sciences, you're obviously geared to biotech or pharma. You just need to get experience and to figure out which way you want to go after that. Career progression is really tied to the projects that you have, the bosses that you have, the teams you might lead, as well as how you approach your career, how you approach your job, and then extraneous variables. Someone else might get promoted, someone else might leave the company, and all of a sudden they need to put you in that role. You just don't know. So, I really don't want you to start eliminating options. If you have no experience, you don't have the luxury of saying no to other things. So if you have an opportunity to work in a lab, or you've got that education, just do that, and then you could always pivot later. So guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you have a question that you want me to answer, go to my website, 101mentoring.com. It's free advice, and I'll get to it as quick as I can. Of course, if you want to work with me, I do have one-on-one courses that I've just launched recently. Check it out. I've got stuff on career prep, I've got stuff on leadership, I've also got a course on career promotion. This stuff is advice and strategies that I've used to get to where I am today. Guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you next time. Cheers.